If you want to talk about Division III basketball, you've logged on to the right place.
Welcome to the big show.
Whereas on the men's side, I think they overloaded two of the brackets, and as a result, I think we're not going to get a good Final Four in the sense of who everyone really would like to see there.
The system is a mess, guys, but I think that's neither here nor there.
The next 3 hours, we'll cover it all.
We don't have the time to move pieces because conferences are playing their title games on Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock, for God's sake.
I'll tell you what, I'll support them. You guys are going to get to the Sweet 16 and get annihilated by Stevens Point.
With regional reports.
We've talked a lot about the fact on the men's side that there's not a lot of dominant teams, and the flip side of that is that you have a lot of parity. It makes the conference races exciting.
And interviews with coaches.
Hey, it's great to be on Hoopsville. I tell you, it's that time of the year.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much for having me.
This D3 basketball is the greatest. The players, they play because they love it. They're fun. The teams are playing. You go to these other campuses. It's where it's at.
We knew that the ODAC competition was going to be very tough. We knew that each coach had done their job with recruiting, and there were so many young teams that we just knew that each and every night when we played an ODAC contest that we had our work cut out for us.
We'll talk about who's on top.
And the CCRW is much like the Wisconsin League, the WIAC, in that, I mean, really, it's a cliche, but it's true. On any night, anyone can beat you.
Those surprises.
Every game counts, especially
Play
the
your
regional
season.
games. Yeah.
Don't lose to a bad team.
Well, and don't lose your conference tournament.
And who's making news in Division III.
We got an awful tough league, and we have some tough games this week, but we're still tied for first place in our league in the loss column.
And as you point out, they're not a reliable team in the NCAA tournament. They've proven it year in and year out that you can't count on.
You can even join in and chat with us.
I mean, this lower right-hand bracket is loaded.
This bracket is ridiculous. I mean, you could take a final. This could be a Final Four bracket.
You want to play that Thursday game because you have not won an NCAA tournament game. You got to go out there and show yourselves that you can actually do it.
So sit back and relax, and let's talk D3 hoops.
We talked before about Hope Calvin being far and away the #1 rivalry in Division III basketball. You can't dispute it.
I think the WIAC always deserves 2 teams in the poll for sure, and probably 3.
Well, one, I think they got the easiest run to a possible Final Four. They don't have a lot of challenges on the way.
There were 3 teams in that region that deserved first-round buys.
Exactly.
And only 2 could get them.
Now it's time for Hoopsville.
Great show. Keep this up. This is a good thing for D3, and I will enjoy listening to the rest of the show.
Let's get it started in here. Everybody, let's get into it. Get stupid, get it started, get it started, get it started. Let's get it started.
Here's your host, Dave McHugh.
And welcome in, everybody, to Hoopsville. It is Thursday, the day after the first regional rankings, and we are, the 9th of February in, 22 days. We'll know who's in the NCAA tournament and who is not. Plenty to cover tonight. We're going to have lots of guests on. Plenty to cover. Where do we begin? We'll have, Messiah. Oh, see, Chris coming in. Thank you. Sorry, I got distracted because we got, once again, a slowdown on my computer, and I worked on that. So if you get any breakup, I apologize. But Messiah coming up here shortly. We'll also talk to Wittenberg later in the show. We'll also talk to Franklin women's basketball team. They are our school of the week. We'll get their coach on the show. And we have booked Claremont-Mudd-Scripps men's basketball team. We'll talk to them about their number 11 ranking. They'll beat Caltech rather easily earlier this week. We'll take on Redlands later this week. Plenty to talk about so far tonight. If you got questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That is hoopsville@d3hoops.com. AOLIM is hoopsville2000. Join us on Twitter. The account is at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. We're at about 925 or so. Love to see some more. Don't be shy. Also, hashtag Hoopsville, as we mentioned. Facebook.com/Hoopsville is where you can follow us on Facebook. We also have the chat room to the side, as it were, that we'll be monitoring as well. I know Night Slappy is in there. Hello, Night Slappy. Hope you are well. But let's get to a couple key things here. Mainly, first off, results in the top 25. We'll get to the good stuff in a second. We already have a loss in the top 5 on the men's side. Virginia Wesleyan loses to Randolph-Macon. That game at Randolph-Macon. 54-51. Randolph-Macon, a tough place to play, but Virginia Wesleyan's been there already this season in a little classic they had over Thanksgiving. Randolph-Macon just came off of a loss to Washington and Lee. So you figure they were gunning for Virginia Wesleyan, but you figured Virginia Wesleyan could handle it. Number 3, now 18-3. They got Hampden-Sydney. That is not going to be easy. That will be a rivalry game on the other side. So Virginia Wesleyan in a little bit of a hiccup here in the ODAC and will certainly fall out of the top 5 in my estimation unless they have enough votes to stay ahead of MIT. Of course, speaking of votes on MIT, it seems like they're stuffing the ballot box on the front page of D3Hoops.com. The only other loss, you got to go all the way down 19. Wheaton lost to Carthage in a nail-biter of a game, 69-67. They will take on North Central, who's receiving votes, but after this week will probably move into the top 25. Wittenberg, who we already mentioned will be on the show, lost to Wabash on the road by 6, 55-49 in a low-scoring game. But their rival, Worcester, is on the horizon on Saturday, number 13, Scots. If you look at the other receiving votes, plenty of losses there. As we mentioned, Illinois Wesleyan lost to North Central on the road, or it was at Illinois Wesleyan, 80-73. I watched the last 6 minutes of that game. Illinois Wesleyan certainly playing without Zimmer, who had taken a pretty hard hit in the first half, a clean one. It was on a pick, and Zimmer didn't see the pick coming. I've watched the video plenty of times. So that may have been somewhat of the factor, but Illinois Wesleyan will lose a ton of votes. Don't be surprised if you see North Central leapfrog into the top 25 as a result, but they're going to have to get past Carthage on the road, and that is never easy. Rhode Island College lost to Mass Dartmouth this week. They got Bates and Southern Maine ahead of them. WPI lost to Wheaton by 2. They got Springfield ahead of them. That will not be easy. Eastern Connecticut lost to Western Connecticut on a buzzer beater. Heck of a finish there. They got Mass Dartmouth ahead of them. Lycoming lost to Messiah. We will talk to Messiah here tonight by 2 at Messiah. They have Widener left. Ohio Wesleyan lost to Worcester, as we've talked about, by 4. Tight game for Worcester. May have been looking ahead to Wittenberg. So there you go on the men's side. On the women's side, not much to talk about. Franklin, who we'll have on here shortly, is now 20-2. Lost to Rose-Hulman 59-52. They're 14th. They'll probably take a bit of a hit here. Kane lost to College of New Jersey by 10. Kane, who's the number 1 team in the region, by the way. Maybe in jeopardy of trying to stay in the top 25. Now at 20-4, obviously under a interim coach. Lost their coach a couple weeks ago. Hopkins certainly will have trouble staying in the top 25. Lost on a buzzer beater to McDaniel. That's also on D3Hoops.com. Good job on the McDaniel crew getting that one on. 74-76 at the buzzer. Carthage on the women's side lost to Wheaton. They were getting votes. Greensboro lost to Ferrum. Those are the women's scores. The other thing that's certainly a topic of conversation is regional rankings. First runner out, certainly maybe some surprises and some shocks to some fans out there. If you watch and listen to Hoopsville, we've been trying to educate you leading up to this, having the men's and women's committee chairs on. Don't know if that helped tremendously. But I think it helped a bit, and we hope you learned something from that so you weren't maybe too surprised. But a couple things of note in the regions. St. Joseph's of Long Island, for example, in the Atlantic region, only 1 regional loss, but they are behind Staten Island and William Patterson. East region, no real surprises there. Medaille 19-2, no surprise there. The AMCC pretty weak, and that is hurting their strength of schedule. In the Great Lakes, Hope on top, no surprise there, undefeated. Wittenberg, then Worcester, then Ohio Wesleyan, Wabash, and Capital. Really no surprises there. Mid-Atlantic, maybe some surprises for some. Cabrini on top, no surprise there. Keystone, 17-3, then Lycoming, 15-4. Mary Washington, 14-4. This may be the surprise everyone sees in Franklin and Marshall at 19-2. That goes to strength of schedule. St. Mary's right behind them at 14-5. No surprises there the rest of the way. And then you get Messiah, Misericordia, and Alvernia. They will not stay in the top 9, I suspect, because they'll beat each other up in the conference. Midwest, Wash U is on top over Transylvania. That might be a little bit of a surprise, but Wash U UAA schedule certainly comes into play here. That helps their strength of schedule. Transylvania, you would think, would help them a little bit, but they're sitting at 18-1 nonetheless. Lake Forest at 17-2, maybe a little surprise there. Then Wheaton, North Central, Illinois Wesleyan, Edgewood, and Concordia, Wisconsin round out your top 8. In the Northeast, there's been a lot of talk here. Amherst at 18-2 and Middlebury 18-1. Rhode Island College at 16-4 and Western Connecticut at 17-4. WPI at 16-4. Eastern Connecticut at 17-4. I'm talking regional ranking or schedules here. Then MIT at 20-1. And all the way at the bottom at 12 is Albertus Magnus at 21. Those do come down to strength of schedule numbers, we believe, more than who they've beaten. And in the South, Mary, I could keep going. No surprise here in the South. That was pretty straightforward. And in the West, maybe a little bit of surprise. Whitewater is third behind River Falls and Stevens Point. I think that's a bit of a surprise, but that might even itself out. Whitworth at 4, Claremont-Mudd-Scripps at 5. Some of those are a little bit surprising. St. Thomas is ahead of Gustavus Adolphus, for example. Now, here's the key I want to drive home. The regional rankings look kind of odd, and some people are pointing out, well, hey, Whitewater beat River Falls, for example. Or let's say Gustavus Adolphus beat Transylvania. Or in MIT beat so-and-so. There is a component on the regional rankings that has to do with how you did against regionally ranked opponents. However, in the very first regional rankings, it does not matter. The reason it does not matter is there are no regional rankings to compare to see who beat who. You're not going to come out with a regional ranking just to determine who beat so-and-so and so-and-so and then redo that regional ranking. Next week, you'll get regional rankings that have the component of who beat who in the regions or in other regions. Should point that out. There is cross-pollination here. Gustavus Adolphus beating Transylvania will come into play. So your results against regionally ranked opponents will come into play here. So these regional rankings can shift pretty dramatically strictly on that. Because now you not only have strength of schedule, you not only have your in-region winning percentage, you also have this other criteria that was not able to be used in the first week, and that will change things. That will change things, I think, in some cases dramatically. You might see an MIT or an Albertus Magnus kind of jump much further up than they are right now. You might see a team like, say, Gustavus Adolphus move from 7 a little further up. You'll see a team like Whitewater probably maybe leapfrog into number 1. Actually, number 2, because Stevens Point has 2 wins on Whitewater, so conceivably Stevens Point would probably stay 1. This is all keeping in mind that everybody keeps winning, obviously. Of course, that's in a week. But there's a lot in play, as you can see. So don't count your chickens, as it were, just yet. Also, remember, this first regional ranking means nothing in the sense of who's getting in and who's getting out of the NCAA tournament. That comes in less than 3 weeks. Remember, there are 3 regional rankings. They'll give you an idea of where everyone is positioned. But the final regional rankings, which will be made public on the men's side, we know for sure after the brackets are released. And on the women's side, we hope somebody changes their mind and releases them after the brackets will be released as the last regional rankings. But we'll already know who's in and out of the tournament. We'll at least see where everybody's situated themselves on the men's side. But there are 3. They're just in a guide for you to understand. But also understand that we don't know how each criteria are being weighed, not only by the National Committee, but by each individual region. There is a chance that the Great Lakes is weighing things a little bit different than the Northeast, let's say. Because maybe those different racks appreciate maybe different scenarios for their regions and for their teams in their regions. You can't go to a rack in the Northeast and have them set up a way of weighing their criteria compared to a rack in the West, because they got different scenarios, different types of teams, different conferences, different travel scenarios, lots of different scenarios, so they may weigh things slightly differently. Not to mention the fact that I know in the Northeast, I think half the teams are on the darn regional committee. So half these guys have to sit out for at least parts of conversations. So things change a little bit, et cetera, et cetera. And as both national committee chairs said on the men and women's side, they're letting these racks kind of evolve. In the past, the national committee might come back to a Northeast regional committee and say, you know what, we don't agree where you put MIT. You know what, we don't agree exactly where you put Albertus Magnus. Do you mind changing a few things? Or, you know what, we're going to change this, but this is why we did it. Could you please keep that in mind for the next regional committee or meeting? That's not happening, at least right now. The regional chairs have said they're letting the regional committees make up their own mind and go with their own results and vote accordingly. And as a result, those decisions are being made by the regional committees, and the national committee is just guiding them or giving them advice, but not changing anything. That will change on the final regional rankings for selection of the NCAA tournament and the polls. Then the national committee may go back, if they so choose, to a region and say, you know what, we think you got this wrong, we don't agree, whatever they say, and have them change it. And if that is the case, then those would be changed, and those would affect who gets in and who gets out. That being said, we're not going to know that because we're not going to see a regional ranking than a change. But just keep in mind this is an evolutionary type thing. I know there's plenty of questions about that. Again, if you have questions for us, email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Also, join us on Twitter at d3hoopsville or hashtag hoopsville. Night Slappy, the fact that racks can do different things differently is not crazy. There's no number one system. Listen, you know that different regions have different types of scenarios. Travel, for example, is a huge one. For teams in the South and the West, those regional committees understand that travel is a factor. I'm not saying it's a criteria, but they may weigh things differently. That doesn't mean the national committee says, listen, this is how we would like you to kind of keep things in mind. But the committees for each region are tasked for ranking their teams. If they were all to do it exactly the same, what would be the point in a regional committee? The point in the regional committee is to understand the numbers, understand the strength of schedules, understand matchups, understand results against regional opponents and results against common opponents, and come up with what they think is a good idea. You can't make it the exact same. The exact same is the criteria, the primary and the secondary. That's all the same. How you interpret that, you've got to leave up to the committees, each regional committee. I don't think it's fair to pigeonhole different committees into things that may not work for those regions. The Northeast has a ton of schools. The Atlantic has none. The East has none. You can't have them do it the same way. I don't have a problem with each region having a different understanding, but understand, at the end of the day, at the very end of the poll, at the very last day, the national committee can come back to a region and say, we don't think you got it right, please change this. So give it time. But each region should have the ability to weigh things differently, team by team, conference. They see a different picture. So just keep that all in mind. We're going to take a very quick break. Messiah is going to be coming up on the other side. We're going to talk about those regional committees with each of these coaches as they come up, but we'll talk to Messiah coming up in a little bit. You are listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com on Ustream. We'll talk about a little fun thing about Ustream coming up later in the show as well. We'll be back right after this.
Are you an embarrassment on the dance floor? Do you confuse state capitals and read too many celebrity gossip magazines? Well, if you answered yes, you may have what it takes to adopt a teen from foster care, because teens don't need perfection, they need you. So if you think an MP3 is a computer virus, it's okay. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you. For more information, call 1-888-200-4005 or go to adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
So, EJ, we've designed you a signature shoe worthy of a 3-time All-American with mad smarts and sick leadership skills. Ta-da!
There are over 380,000 NCAA student athletes.
Yeah, you got your GPA embossed, right?
I love it. And just about all of them will be going pro in something other than sports.
Can I get it in a loafer for casual Fridays? Yes. Yes.
All season long, let D3Football.com be your home for all the Division III football action on the road to the Stag Bowl. From interactive blogs and message boards to columns from around the region and around the nation on your favorite teams, nobody covers NCAA Division III better than D3Football.com. As the playoffs approach, get the scoop on who's in and who's out from the experts who picked all 32 teams last year. Don't go anywhere else. Get the info from the source for Division III football at www.D3Football.com.
Who are you?
What are your team colors?
Who can make you cheer?
Who can bring your family and friends together?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
And who do you want to slap high fives, jump up and down, and yell at the top of your lungs with?
There's probably a game near you today. NCAA basketball. Who's your team?
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. I'm your host, Dave McHugh, broadcasting out of the Hoopsville studios in the greater Baltimore area. I hope you all are enjoying the show. Lots to cover today, obviously. Lots to cover in the weeks ahead. So if you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can join us on Twitter. Follow us at D3Hoopsville, or join us on join us with the hashtag Hoopsville. And also join us on Facebook at facebook.com. Et cetera, et cetera. Lots to cover. And we want to hear from you tonight. I've got confidence that we will have Claremont-Mudd-Scripps for those of you listening, because I actually see a Twitter tweet from Claremont-Mudd-Scripps News. So that they look forward to seeing Coach on the show. So we have confidence. Lots of confidence. But before him, let's cover one thing quickly. Chris, I believe you're wearing a shirt. I am wearing a shirt. We'll cover them in more detail later. We'll get to the T-shirts later, but Chris is wearing one I couldn't possibly wear, but I'm glad we have it on the air anyway. But in the meantime, let's shift our focus to the Mid-Atlantic region. We'll bring in a team from the MAC Commonwealth Conference, and that is Messiah. And Coach Rick Van Pelt joins us here on Hoopsville. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Thanks, Dave. It's good to be with you.
I appreciate you taking some time out of you. I know what is a busy schedule this time of year to join us. I appreciate it. 15-6 overall, 9-2 in the conference. A little bit of a dog fight for the conference. Messiah, Lycoming, and Widener. It has been tight. You guys have a 2-game lead on Lycoming and Widener. Alverny and Albright are behind you guys. But you're certainly having a pretty decent season, especially in conference. A little bit in the driver's seat as well. You feeling confident with a couple weeks or a couple games left on the schedule?
Well, I'm feeling confident, but we're the game on Saturday against Arcadia is the one we're focused on right now. They're a team that can be a spoiler for sure. So we got to focus on that one. But yeah, we feel like we've had a pretty good year, and the kids did the job.
I would agree. The Arcadia 9-13, 2-9 in the conference. But when I see a loss streak of 7 in a row this time of year, even I'd get nervous, because some point they're going to catch fire, get one of those lucky games, as it were, and you certainly don't want it to be against you.
Yeah, and Arcadia is a team that they're not going to give up. They won the entire season last year without a win in conference until the last game of the season, and they got a big win in the last game of the season against a quality team. So we know that they're not packing it in for sure. They're going to be coming for us.
And let's talk about the beginning of the season. Started off with 2 straight wins, and then kind of hit a stumbling block a little bit. Lost 3 straight to New Jersey City, York, Pennsylvania, and Lebanon Valley. Then 2 out of the next 4. Penn State, Harrisburg, Eastern Mennonite. So kind of a rough start. Things are down. You're 4-5, and You take a Christmas off, and it seemed to do the team good. You guys have, until Widener back on the 4th, you guys had been on a roll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The guys are telling me that we got to stop practicing so much, and but we really needed that Christmas break just to get healthy. And we lost Jeremiah Runkle, who's our starting one of our starting big guys in the first game of the season, and he missed the next 8 up through Christmas break, and that was that really helped to get him back after Christmas. And a couple other guys were playing through some injuries, some nagging stuff. So the Christmas break certainly did us some good to get healthy.
What has been, you talk about the injuries and stuff and obviously getting healthy, but obviously the MAC Commonwealth, not a tremendously strong conference in the sense that it's not talked about on a national scale, but what has been the secret so far to get through the conference with only 2 losses, your second coming to Widener, as we mentioned? What's been the secret so far and how you've positioned yourselves?
Well, I think our team's strength has been defense. We just really have defended well, and our kids have bought into it. Every single one of them has bought into really focusing defensively and in our preparation for each team. And I think we're below 40%, 38, 39% defensive field goal percentage, which leads the conference. And so that's definitely been the key. I mean, we certainly haven't outscored people. And I wish we would score a little bit more, but defensively is where we've hung our hat.
Well, let's talk about the stats just a little bit. Let's talk about the team that you've got under you. 3 guys in double figures. It starts with David Fernandez at 16.5 points, 13 points from Derek Mosley, 11-plus points coming from Brad Bolin. Rebounding top guys, those are pretty much your 3 top guys as well on the rebounding side of things. You're getting another 8 points out of Jeremiah Runkle, and Zach Hoy is giving you 8 points a game. And clearly, Fernandez is handing out the assists along with Devon and Hoy and others. How is this team gelling? How is this team? What is outside those numbers? What those numbers tell us who the big guys are, but what's the story behind those numbers? I should say.
Yeah. I think this team has, and I've had a couple teams during my time that really have multiplied each other's talents. And some of those guys are really good players for this level. But I think what they do as a group is really special. They feed off each other. They play to each other's strengths, and just do a nice job fitting the pieces together. And we've heard that from a number of coaches in our league and coaches we've played against. Just when we get a chance to talk a little bit before games, that the pieces just seem to fit really well with our group, and that's a credit to our kids and just the way they've accepted their individual roles. Even some of the kids that you didn't even mention that don't get to play a lot, and what they do for us in a practice setting, and just adding to the relationships on our team that make it a special bond and something that the kids really feel is special and they pour themselves into. So it's just a good group of kids that multiply each other's talents.
You talk about guys that I didn't mention. What I find interesting is you have 7 players who played 16 games. That's not completely fair because obviously you mentioned Runkle missing 8 games. He's played 8 games, so you multiply that. You figure he plays 16. Mosley plays 12. So right there, we've only mentioned about 9 guys.
Yeah.
Some teams like to try and go down to 12 if they can, and you certainly have had a handful of guys who played quite a bit. But is it that core group of 7, maybe 8, that is really the crux of this team?
Yeah, we do have a core group as far as their play on game day on the court, and we really try to emphasize, the things that we know that are important within our program. From the outside looking in, there's certain guys that are certainly looked at to be more important on the court, but those guys behind the scenes add a lot of value to our program. But we do have a core group of guys that plays in a rotation, and they've logged some minutes for sure, and have done a good job.
2 of those core guys are 2 of your 3 seniors in Ritzman and Runkle. You'll be losing them at the end of this season. You've got a number of sophomores on this team with just one junior. Are you confident that this group can maybe even improve upon what you've developed this year and take it forward? Are you worried about a drop-off next year in any way with losing Runkle and losing Ritzman?
Well, every year I think of my seniors, and I wonder how I'm going to be able to replace them. And it seems like somebody always comes along.
Sure.
And these two guys, and Dwayne Aljar, who's playing, this is his first year on the team. Hasn't played a whole lot, but they've done a lot of things for us just in leadership. And I would say Jeremiah especially, and just Jeremiah's a kind of a non-traditional student. He's a little bit older, and he brings that maturity to our team and just kind of that confidence. It doesn't get rattled in tight situations. And he's super competitive, but at the same time, he's kind of got life and perspective a little bit more than maybe a 18, 19-year-old would. But yeah, we definitely will miss those guys. I think the way our young guys work gives me confidence in that they're going to continue to improve. That sophomore group, I probably haven't had a group of kids who has been as committed and has worked as hard to improve their individual athleticism and just skill. And if they continue to do that, I'm very confident that we can continue to improve. And of course, we're going to have a good recruiting year this year and keep adding pieces to the puzzle and get them to fit together. So
let's talk about the MAC Commonwealth quickly. Last year, you guys were kind of near the bottom of the pack, really in the middle of the pack, tied at 7-7 in the conference, 12-13 on the season. Alvernia was on top. Lebanon Valley certainly carried the torch for the conference. What a difference a year makes. Lebanon Valley is down at 11-11, 4-7 in conference, and Alvernia is kind of in the middle of the pack, 15-7, 6-5. Obviously, lots happening in the MAC with teams moving around. I believe 2 teams come to the Freedom next year, or are they coming to you guys?
They're coming to us. Yeah,
okay, Stevenson and Hood, right?
Yep.
Couldn't remember where they were going because I know the number gets really whacked off compared to the 2 teams. But obviously, changes on the horizon nonetheless.
Right.
What is the MAC was kind of the conference that reacted, in my opinion, the slowest when there was all the shakeup in the Mid-Atlantic. But they seem to be the ones who are still making moves. What is the status of the MAC? Hey, tell us a little about these teams. What's going on with the teams? What do you expect for the future of this conference? You've seen it all. You've been there 13 years.
Yeah. I wish I had a lot of answers for you as far as what's going on. But I do know that Hood and Stevenson are coming in to our conference. I'm not sure if there's any thought of trying to balance out the Freedom and the MAC as far as a number of teams, because we will have 10 and the Freedom will have 8. And then as far as playoff structure for next year, with adding 2 teams, if we still take the top 4 teams, I'm not 100% sure how that's going to shake out yet. But definitely will be. It definitely will. It'll make it even more of a grind, I guess, for the league season, because we're still going to play everybody twice in league. So we'll have fewer out-of-conference games, which can tend to kind of water things down a little bit from a regional ranking standpoint, because we're all beating each other. I think it's change, and change is going to happen. So you just got to learn to roll with it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Let me quickly ask you about the regional rankings, which did come out. You guys are sitting, if I remember, number 7 behind some pretty good squads ahead of you. Misericordia from the Freedom is sitting 8, and Alvernia is sitting 9. Obviously, that tells you a lot as a coach. It's win or go home.
Yeah.
But are you surprised by the regional rankings, the way they shaked out?
Not really. I think we've had 5 overtime games, and we've lost 4 of those overtime games, and 3 of them were 3-point shots down the stretch that kind of did us in. 2 of those banked in. So we were
darn banks.
Our record could be a lot different with a few different bounces of the ball.
Sure.
So it is what it is, and but our strength of schedule, I think, is what really will probably help us. Hopefully down the stretch, our plan is to try to win our league and try to win, the league championship. And so if all those things fall in place, then we really don't have to worry about the regional rankings. But it's a good region. There's a lot of good teams in our region, and so to be 7th is really an honor at this point. And we just knocked off Lycoming, which I think is number 3. So that should bode well for us. Hopefully, if we can continue to win when the next one comes out.
Let's talk about Messiah just a little bit, in case anyone's not familiar. And at this point in Division III athletics, I'm not sure why no one would know about Messiah. Certainly dominating in soccer. Certainly women's basketball has carried the torch for a long time. Men's basketball has certainly been there along the way, and plenty of other sports. But let's talk about the Messiah in the sense of, and anybody out there who's not aware, it's a little bit different in recruiting because Messiah certainly has a strong religious background to it. So it's not like you can just attract any type of player you want to come in. They kind of need to be sold on the school a lot too, maybe more so than a lot of other schools. Yeah,
definitely. There's some niche recruiting that we have to do at Messiah, and what we do in recruiting is we go out and work really hard to identify the really good basketball players from around the region and even nationally, and then we let them know who we are and what we stand for and what our school's about, and if that's attractive to them, then we move forward in the recruiting process, and it's a positive thing. We attract some great young people to our college, and we get to work with some of the best, and the character of our kids is they're 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. They're not perfect, and it's not utopia at Messiah, but we get to work with some really, really good kids, and that's what kind of makes it special from a coaching standpoint. But Messiah's a great school, has a great academic reputation. It's a great environment on campus, a close-knit community, and our athletic programs have done extremely well across the board in the Sears Cup. I'm not sure if they still call it the Sears Cup, the all sports.
Yeah. I don't think it's Sears, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the all sports. I mean, we have finished very high, 20, 17, 15, somewhere in that range in most years out of 400 and some athletic programs at the Division III level. That's pretty impressive. And Messiah has put a lot of resources into athletics, and it's a great place to be an athlete.
Just curious, do you think you've ever lost a pretty good player because of the dynamic? Sure. We definitely have. But you probably, if you would go to all the different schools, that we've all lost good players to each other. So yeah, we certainly have lost good players. Yes. Talking to Coach Rick Van Pelt here of Messiah as we wrap up here about the Mid-Atlantic. Let's talk about the rest of the Mid-Atlantic. Obviously, Centennial, Capital Athletic Conference, Landmark Conference, CSAC, et cetera, et cetera. How do you see this region shaping up with just a couple weeks left? With Cabrini, the Franklin and Marshalls, and some of the other teams that have surprised. You mentioned beating Lycoming and Keystone playing pretty good. How do you see this region shaping up this year?
Yeah, I know. I mean, we're so much into our league. I don't know a lot about all the other leagues. I know F&M. We've scrimmaged them in the past, and Coach Robinson fairly well. And I know they've got a great program and have a very good team. Penn State Harrisburg, who's doing really well in their conference, didn't get a regional ranking, but they've got a nice team. And then just talking to some of the other coaches, Cabrini has a lot of coaches have a lot of respect for Cabrini and what they've been able to do, and just the firepower that they have offensively is I don't know if you want to say scary to coaches, but coaches definitely respect that for sure. So I think it's going to be interesting as it comes down, and once we get to conference tournaments, and some of those teams that are highly ranked in the regional rankings might get beat in their conference tournaments, and then they'll end up stealing some spots from other folks as far as getting that large bid. So we'll have to wait and see how it all falls out.
Well, hey, Coach, I appreciate you taking time to join us here on Hoopsville tonight. I know you've got a lot ahead of you. Obviously, as you mentioned, the game ahead is Arcadia and then Alvernia on the road, and you finish it up at home against Elizabethtown on the 18th, and then it's into MAC conference play, which you are certainly setting yourself up to be the home court for, so that's a good sign. But
hopefully.
Yes, hopefully for you. But before we let you go, we always give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who are listening tonight?
Well, we're just, if there's Falcon fans out there listening, we're excited about the home stretch and hope they can come out and see us play down the stretch. And on that February 18th, will be senior night, and we definitely want to honor our seniors, and just really excited about the season and seeing where we can go from here.
Absolutely. Coach, good luck the rest of the way. Just a little bit more of a week left in the regular season, and then we'll see about the playoffs and all that stuff. So good luck the rest of the way. Good luck to your Falcons, and thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right, take care. Coach Rick Van Pelt joining us here on Hoopsville. Messiah, always good. Worth a look every time if you get that opportunity. Again, if you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can IM us at Hoopsville2000. Yes, we still use AOLIM, and it's Hoopsville2000. Twitter account, you can follow us at D3Hoopsville. That's at D3Hoopsville. Or you use the hashtag Hoopsville. We will follow and try and answer any questions you might throw at us from there. And please don't be afraid. And join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. There's also a chat room to the side. We know there's some of you in there. We'd hope you are have questions, and we are looking forward to things. And we'll certainly answer those questions. Up next, Hobart joins us from the East region. We'll talk to a rather familiar coach, Mike Neer, in his second season there. Talk to him about why he decided to come out of retirement after coaching Rochester for so long, and how well he's got Hobart playing right now. We'll talk to Coach Mike Neer on Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com right here on Ustream. We'll be back right after this.
Amber alert, abducted child, African-American girl, 6 years old, suspect wearing blue shirt, black jeans.
Now when an Amber Alert is issued, you can get the same information the authorities get right on your cell phone. Sign up for free at wirelessamberalerts.org. Think of it, something as simple as a free text message could free an abducted child.
All units Amber Alert canceled. Child recovered safely. Suspect is in custody.
wirelessamberalerts.org. A child is calling for help. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
NCAA Women's College Basketball. All day, every day. Our game. These women can really play. Filling it up, knocking them down, and bringing it home. It's basketball at its purest. For family fun and great entertainment, there's nothing like it. All day, every day. Our game. NCAA Women's College Basketball.
Who are you?
What are your team colors?
Who can make you cheer?
Who can bring your family and friends together?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
And who do you want to slap high fives, jump up and down, and yell at the top of your lungs with?
There's probably a game near you today. NCAA Basketball. Who's your team? Who are you?
Who can make you cheer?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
NCAA Basketball. Who's your team?
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville. D3Hoops.com obviously helps us with the programming, or at least we all work together. And we also want to thank Ustream for providing them. We'll talk a little bit more about what Ustream has done with Division III basketball in just a few minutes. But in the meantime, if you have any questions for us, join us on email at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Your AOLIM is hoopsville2000. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/hoopsville. We'd love to have you be a fan. Follow us on Twitter. D3Hoopsville is your Twitter account, D3Hoopsville. Or look up Hoopsville. Or use the hashtag Hoopsville. Lots to cover. We're going to waste little time and jump right into the East region and returning back to the show, but in a new role, is Coach Mike Neer, former Rochester coach, and now in his second year at the helm of Hobart men's basketball. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville once again.
Well, let me correct you. I'm in my first season at Hobart, and
I'm confusing my seasons, Coach.
Well, I've been confused a few times myself. Anyway, I think I'm 5.5 weeks in, and I'm having a blast.
Well, hey, it's pretty good so far. I'll have to admit, you caught everybody's attention, I think, right out of the gate when you guys started so strong. Your only loss being to Rochester, which we'll talk about in a minute, before the new year. Then Franklin and Marshall tripped you guys up a little bit, RPI and St. Lawrence, but really, to be honest, 17-4, 10-2 in the conference. You've got to be thrilled with how this season has rolled so far for the Statesmen.
It's good to win a lot of ball games. I mean, I've had more fun, quite frankly, every day teaching a group that wants to be taught. The journey has been great. We want to get better. We got good kids. I'm very thankful for a couple things. First of all, I'm thankful to three groups or three people. Mike Canna, the director here, who called me in August and asked me if I wanted to coach here at this opportunity. I was excited as hell. I think the world of Mike. The second thing that made this attractive is I saw, while coaching at Rochester, the 4 or 5 year building that Izzy Metz, the previous coach, did. So I saw, one, he was building a very good program. Good kids, hard-working kids with some talent, who were committed to getting better and committed to each other. So those two people, made the choice in many ways very easy. And the third group is clearly the players. I mean, they have, clearly I'm sure were disappointed when Izzy had a chance to join the staff at Boston College. But they have been very, very receptive to me. They've allowed me to coach them. They've taken, the praise and the criticism that goes with it and the spirit it's taken, and I think we're all having fun, and I like to think the best is yet to come.
I got to ask though, 1 year retired from Rochester. I mean, you were the dean of UAA. I would argue there are obviously some great coaches there, Mark Edwards as well. In the UAA and Coach Mike McGrath at Chicago. But, I mean, everyone really knew you in the Rochester program, and you brought them where they are. You retire. Nothing against you, but I figured you were riding off into the sunset to enjoy life in New York State, and all of a sudden you pop up with Hobart. And I got to ask, I mean, you've explained, obviously, the opportunity was there, but what was the real draw to come back and play and coach again, especially so close to a Finger Lake? You know how the weather is there.
Yeah, well, unbelievable. I mean, part of this whole neat experience, upstate New York, we've had a total, believe it or not, of 4 inches of snow.
Yeah, I believe it this year.
Yeah, so I'm commuting 90, 100 miles, round trip a day, and it's great. I mean, it's easy pass, books on tape, cruise control. It's a little downtime, and the Finger Lakes are gorgeous. I mean, it's a neat little school. I'm a graduate of Washington and Lee. My children, my wife were all products of small liberal arts schools. So in many ways, this was an opportunity to kind of return to roots, to a comfort level. Again, working, with Mike Canna, who, we first met 30-some years ago, 40 years ago at the Naval Academy. We were both assistants in the early 70s, he in lacrosse, I in basketball. Mm-hmm. So, there was, someone you admire and you understand his approach to commitment to teaching and growing not only the students and the athletes, but I love the culture here of continuing to develop the coaching staff, and so that was a very easy draw. So what I've got here is a chance to enjoy once again a lot of the things I knew I was going to miss when I got out, without some of the things you don't miss. And clearly, as I get more time in the saddle here at Hobart, I'm sure I'll find that you're going to get beat up a couple nights in a row, and and go through all the the little hurts and pains that go along with coaching. But right now, I'm the change of scene has been fantastic. It's the discovering. It's great being the oldest rookie coach in the country. I mean, I'm discovering things again. Yeah. All right. It's the adjustment. It was a new school. Where do you park?
The new traditions,
all of this. Yeah. Once I got on the floor, it was like I hadn't left. I mean, that was after 30-some years, in one gym on one campus, to find yourself in another place. Once I got on the floor, it was it was like I never left. I mean, it was unique, and we had our first staff meeting on October 12th.
Wow.
I had, prior commitments, family commitments in the fall. And, Russ Phillips, I inherited as a full-time assistant. And then Carl Wenzel and Dennis Peisnack are long-time part-time assistants who were part of the reason they've been successful. Is,
right.
They recruited good kids. It was continuity. But the first time we could get all of us together was October 12th, 13th, and 14th. So here I am trying to teach them, the basics that I believe in, that I want to teach.
And practice starts the 15th.
That's exactly right. And then also kind of the challenge and also kind of the excitement is to go in with a base, say defensively man-to-man, and some basic concepts of taking care of the ball and protecting the ball and playing, through the post, but at the same time trying to assess talent, assess chemistry, assess their attention to detail, what degree is their execution, and all this. So it's almost like it was, for the first couple weeks, tryouts to kind of measure what I have here. Also, they had graduated 3 4-year starters who were, I think, the heart and soul of their defensive effort. Tough kids that defended, and they played full court, kind of a pressing volume game. So my question is, could we sustain that style, or did we have to, look for other strengths and other ways to play? So, the challenge of being, having a brand new staff, a brand new team, and a brand new location was, that was kind of fun. What made it enjoyable is the coaching staff and the players absolutely have a built-in sense of team. I mean, that's one thing Izzy did a wonderful job of. He didn't suffer fools. He got kids that wanted to work hard. It's a very close team. So I inherited, a neat bunch of kids, a neat situation, and I'm hoping at the end of the season, I've been able to, bring something to the party.
And that's got to be the amazing thing. You point out that you lost so many key guys to this team that went 21-7 last year, was on top of the Liberty League. You're back on top, 17-4, 10-2. Without those senior leaders, you clearly have gotten something out of this team that has worked. You got guys like Matt, I hope I say his last name right. Pabol. Oh, good. Thank you for saying it, because I would have gotten it wrong. Stephen Thompson is getting you also the same amount of points. Richie Bonney, Joe Gibbons, they're scoring in double figures, and you're getting production out of Greg Stern and Razine Davis. I mean, you're getting all these contributions from these guys. You're certainly spreading the wealth on offense. Your rebounding is, no surprise. We saw this at Rochester too. You're getting it out of multiple guys, and you're getting the smalls to get in there and get some big numbers as well. What have they bought into?
Well, first of all, I mean, they're willing to buy what I'm selling, and what I'm selling is things that I believe are sound fundamentals of basketball, and in a kind of a philosophy I have, And when after a week or two of putting through guys through basics and this and that, I said, there are a number of strengths that I've inherited that I can build on. The major difference is, the last year and a half, they kind of committed to a pressing volume game, coming at you, trapping, and playing an up-tempo game to get into the opponent's bench, and that worked. And yet I think they're three best individual defenders who had 4 years of experience, and I also think I was impressed with those, four, since graduated seniors, because they played as freshmen in Izzy's first class, and they kind of took a beating like most startups did.
Yeah.
But they did not lose, spunk. They did not lose piss and vinegar, and they got better, collected 3 or 4 wins each year. And, then Izzy was able to get some depth behind it and develop some skill guys. Matt and Stefan have some skills.
Yeah.
My concern was the heart and soul, the dirty work of the defense and so on. Could we replace it? In my mind, what I saw is that to try to play the same style, I didn't think suited what we had. So, and I felt there were some things that I'd had success at Rochester, playing through the post, having a balanced offense. We got 4 guys in double figures. We've got those 4 are all shooting 50% or better. We've got among the top 2 or 3 rebounders and field goal percentage. So there were some things to work with. I think it's fair to say we're more of a half-court, team offensively and defensively. We're not blessed with great quickness, but I think, we defend screens and stuff pretty well. Offensively, we're willing, to share the ball, and you got to defend ball reversals and screens. So, it's taken us a while to be good at this, and it's. But as I try to tell people who are not familiar with coaching, you can have all the ingredients for the perfect, meal or stew. You still got to slice and dice and season and heat and simmer and cool. So I felt I had pieces. I felt that one of their strengths, there's several strengths that I've inherited. One, they absolutely care about one another, and they have a great sense of team. So, that's a great place to start with. And now there are a couple kids, that are pretty good shooters, pretty good, athletes, and you just try to find a way to put them in spots and understand how together they can help one another. And, I think we're better each month, and I just hope that progression continues.
You obviously know the East region pretty well. You're certainly familiar with the Liberty League teams thanks to the Wendy's Classic every year, or at least some of them. You guys are sitting a game and a half up on Skidmore right now. You're 2.5 up on St. Lawrence. Clarkson and RPI Union are behind that in a logger jam, essentially. The Liberty League looks like a one-bid league right now. You guys are sitting 4th in the regional rankings. Tell us a little bit about this league, how it's shaping up for this conference run.
Well, we're in a good spot in that, we kind of control our destiny. I mean, if we can continue to win, then we win the regular season, and we would earn,
right,
the home court, in the playoffs. This will be interesting for me because
going to ask
in the UAA,
you don't have this opportunity.
In the UAA and the Ivy in D1 are the only 2 leagues that don't have a tournament. So, it recognizing that you can win the league or, play to get into the tournament, which is, another race going on. As you said,
yes.
There's a logjam of people trying to get into that 4th spot. And, and if we don't take care of business, ourselves this, next 2 weekends, we could find ourselves, in a 3rd or 4th seed. So, anyway, that's been a challenge. The other thing that's kind of been fun is to just learn, different coaches, different styles of play. In the UAA, the major difference is the UAA is, the big guys are bigger.
Yeah.
The kids, they're kids in the Liberty League that can flat out play. But as a general rule, in the Liberty League, you got post players that can get things done at 6'5", 6'6", and most of the UAA guys have got 6'7" and 6'8". So, I'm finding that the Liberty League, there's a much more variety of defenses. There's one team's playing a matchup zone, and that took them a while to kind of get that together. Then there's people, there's another team that's doing an awful lot of switching on the perimeter. There's another team that's playing kind of a point zone. So UAA is more man to man. We're going to play you straight up and occasionally a zone, but so just the challenge of having to be prepared for a variety of defenses in the league. Another change for me is the UAA, where second semester it's all Friday, Sunday.
Yeah.
In the Liberty League, there are 4 weeks that each team plays a Tuesday as well as a Friday, Saturday. And the Friday, Saturday is 8 o'clock, followed by 4 o'clock.
Right.
So, we've come off a couple of weeks, as everybody in the Liberty League, where you got to play 3 times in a week. We are finishing up this weekend with a stretch of 8 games in 16 days. So it's feel like the NBA lockout. I mean, we're so
rushed in this.
But everybody in the league has got to go through that.
Right.
But it to play different teams and try to get a read on different styles is kind of fun to have to be alert. I mean, again, pay attention.
Quickly before we let you go, I'm kind of curious. You mentioned UAA and the difference. Obviously, another difference is you mentioned the playoffs. I'm kind of curious your take on how you're preparing for playing in very important games that are not NCAA tournament games, in the sense of they could give you that automatic bid. And I'm kind of curious what it's been like adjusting to the travel. There's no airplanes involved in Liberty League travel, though I'm sure to get up to St. Lawrence, some would like to see that. How have you adjusted to the fact that your mentality right now, this time of year, has to change for the playoffs, and how have you adjusted to the much different travel life on the road?
Well, the travel is, the last 10 years, unfortunately, since 9/11, most all the UAA schools have, are busing a whole lot more than initially.
It's true,
Just because, getting, your men and women's team to the airport, checking bags, getting in through security.
It's an all-day experience.
Exactly. And there were times that, for the last 10 years, the NYU Brandeis trip was a bus triangle. The, Carnegie Mellon Case Western is a triangle, for Rochester. And, at that time, it was a relief to pack onto the bus one time.
Yeah.
Okay, and then kind of sit back. And then the other thing is, in certain cases, depending on the cities, we'd get to the airport. In some cases, teams, the coaches are going and checking out, the minivans and leading kind of a parade from the airport into downtown cities. So some of that I don't miss. But the other thing is that in the UAA, you did have win or lose. You did have, while you were traveling to the next place, you did have a time to kind of recoup, plan a shoot-around or practice on Saturday for a game Sunday at noon. And now, you turn around and win or lose,
you're playing.
You got to go again. It is nice to be, back on campus, by 10 o'clock on a Saturday and have a true Sunday off rather than getting home. So anyway, that, to be honest, that really hasn't been much of a change. The change that will happen, I'm hoping will happen, is just going into postseason conference tournament. We haven't locked that up, yet. So we're again, the more I was at it, you just lock in on this game, play this game, and at the end, people will tell you where you are. But if you start projecting too far ahead, generally, counting your chickens gets you in trouble. But
I hear you.
The reality is, if we do a good job here closing out the next 4 games, there's a good chance, that within a week you're playing somebody, 1 or 2 teams, a third time, and it may be a third time in a 2-week period. So, so anyway, ask me in 2-3 weeks how it worked.
All right. I will. Hey, Coach, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. It is a joy to have you back in Division III. I know Hobart well as I toured it myself. when I was looking for an undergraduate school, and my favorite story about upstate New York. I've been there many times, many relatives there, but my favorite story was the Hobart story, because when I started my tour at whatever time it was a beautiful sunny day. 15 minutes into the tour, it was cloudy. 15 minutes later, it was snowing as if almost it was like a blizzard. 15 minutes later, it was back to cloudy, and 15 minutes later, it was back to sun. The tour was over, all within an hour, and about 4 inches of snow had fallen.
Well,
now, you haven't had that this year, I know, but
no, we were blessed.
That's my favorite little Hobart story.
Well, and it's a good one, and I'm sure it's just tickling your listeners to death.
Yeah,
here.
I'm sure.
But,
trust me, they are tuning in en masse right now.
But listen, I want to thank you all and Pat and all for really doing a great thing for the 400 plus schools that are putting 12 to 17 kids on the floor every night. It's nice for them to have a place to go on the internet and listen, and you guys cover it well. You're fair, you're balanced, you're creative, and for kids that love to play, and for a bunch of us that love to coach, it's nice to have somebody pay attention, acknowledge those people that are working hard and achieving things, and keep up the good work. But there are many out there that appreciate the commitment you all have made to the small colleges.
Well, thank you, Coach. I was going to say, do you have a final word or final thought? But that sounds pretty good in my book.
Well, let's see. But I'm kind of done for thoughts. We've already practiced, and
Oh yeah, you got a lot ahead of you, so I will let you go. But thank you so much.
Thank you, and good luck to everybody else.
Very good, Coach. Take care, and we'll hopefully be talking Hobart in the NCAA tournament as well.
I'd like to do that. Thank you. Bye bye.
Coach Mike Neer joining us here from Hoopsville from Hobart. We appreciate him taking the time to do that. In the meantime, Chris will do some hard working right now and get our next guests on the line. School of the Week, we're a little bit behind, but if you have questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That is hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can IM us at Hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. That is Hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. You can also join us on Facebook. Join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville. That's at D3Hoopsville. Or join us via hashtag at Hoopsville. That is your other choice. And speaking of Twitter, I will actually tweet the fact that our School of the Week is coming up. And that is Franklin women's basketball. We'll be getting our coach on the air. And Chris, very good. Chris has her on pause, but we'll get this going here. If you forgive me doing multiple thoughts, it's always kind of funny this way. See, this is how we do this sometimes on Hoopsville. Our School of the Week. But tune in. If you have any questions, again, please let us know. We will answer them as much as we can. We'll even ask them to the coaches if they are pertinent as such, and so on and so forth. So let's get right to it. And School of the Week, of course, obviously has its fun part with Chris later. We will get to that, but joining us on the line is women's basketball coach for Franklin. Sorry, I'm doing multiple things at the same time without a break. Chris, this was not a good idea. Kim Eiler joins us. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville for starters, and congratulations on what has certainly been a successful season.
Oh, thank you very much, and good evening to you all as well.
Now, I should ask, should I call you doctor? I noticed there's a doctor in front of your name.
There is a doctor in front of my name, yes. I have a doctorate in education from Auburn University.
Very nice, very nice. So do we call you doctor, or should we just keep it informal?
Informal. If you're in my classroom, you can call me doctor, but...
I'm not showing up in any classrooms. Yeah, very good. I'm not showing up in any classrooms soon. Let's just get that straight.
You don't want to take a class with me, huh?
No, I don't want to take a class, period. It has nothing to do with you. No, this has to do with the fact that I was not what you would call a book learner.
Not a stellar student. No.
No. I was a non-book learner. I excelled everywhere but in the classroom. But we'll digress as quickly as possible. All right, number 14 in the country. You guys, the gals, are 20-2, I should say, 13-2 in the conference. So it just took a bit of a bump against Rose-Hulman last night, I believe, 59-52. But still, I mean, if you consider the fact that you got all the way to January 14th before you took a loss, and since then you've almost go a month without a loss, you're having a pretty good season.
Oh my gosh, yes we are. We're really thrilled, and we're not real used to losing, so 2 losses seems like a lot to us. But when you look at it, 20-2 is a great way to start.
This is a team that is competing in the Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference. You're on top of that in a tie with Hanover at 13-2 right now. Manchester's 2 games back at 11-4. Transylvania's lurking at 9-6. Defiance is in there as Bluffton as well. It certainly is a dogfight for that number 1 bid right now. You have 3 games left. Anderson, Mount St. Joseph, and Defiance. In theory, you're playing, the bottom half of this conference, so Defiance will probably give you some fits. Do you think that's an advantage to getting you the number 1?
Oh, I think right now we can control our own destiny. We're in the driver's seat since we have the tiebreakers. So, we're just talking about, playing the next game, focusing on Saturday. But, if we win out, then we get that number 1 seed. So, playing on the road, we have 2 of the 3 on the road. So, playing on the road is rough. So you got to be some road warriors here and, and battle game in and game out.
When you look at your team, obviously the player that jumps off the books, off the stat sheet, off the screen, et cetera, is Sarah Condra, 19.4 points a game. She's hauling in nearly 6 rebounds a game, shooting 44% from the floor. She's also shooting 36.5% from beyond the arc, 28 blocks, 47 assists, 34 steals. She's pretty much leading almost every category possible within reason. But that's not to eliminate Jessica Pruitt and Krista Beeman and Casey Dollins. You certainly, though, Condra is really the key to this team.
Oh, yeah. We follow Condra's lead, and you got to, as a coach, just be so pleased when one of your best players is your hardest working player. She gets after it day in and day out, and she's really, increased our level of play and increased the rest of the team's motivation to get after it. And so having her has just been a really special player for us.
I love how she's listed as a 5'10" guard. You have one.
She's a guard.
You have 1 6-footer on this team. Most people on women's basketball would start listing them as forwards. I agree she's a guard because of her 301 shots, 115 have come from beyond the arc. But at the same time, when you've got 28 blocks to lead the team and your leading rebounder at 5.9, a lot of people would look at that stat and go, you sure she's not a forward, like a 5 maybe for you? Maybe I'll give you a 4?
Oh, no, she's a guard. She actually, for her AAU travel team when she was in high school, played some point guard for them. So, her versatility with her ball handling and, obviously being able to shoot from long range is, it's very helpful for us. But, her length inside, she goes in and boards, and she'll post up if she has to, or somebody smaller on her. So she's just really versatile, but she truly is a guard. She has wonderful ball handling skills. So, no, we're honest that she is a guard.
Well, I'm not denying that. I just find it interesting when you see it listed. Of course, she's one of your seniors. If quick math does it, it's 4 seniors that you have on the squad. Lindsay Dahl, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Casey Dollins, who we mentioned earlier, Courtney Peterson, and Monica Schwab are your other seniors. So clearly, she is a key that you are going to lose. Tell us a little bit about the rest of the team and what the future holds for Franklin and what other players are contributing to the squad.
Well, we could probably start 2 sophomores. Krista Beeman comes off the bench as a sophomore, and then Krista Shaw already starts as a sophomore. So, and then our point guard's just a junior. Pruitt's just a junior. So, we feel really, we lose some, you lose Condra, that's a big a loss. But I think she's elevated the play of the other players, and they've just, they've taken the work ethic. They get after it. And so, definitely we will miss her. But I think, the cupboard's definitely not bare for next year. We'll be excited about, getting after it again next year as well.
You're in the tough Great Lakes region. Teams like DePaul, teams like Mount Union, Calvin, even Hope, even though they're having maybe a slightly off season, Ohio Northern, et cetera. You're sitting 4th in the regional rankings, which is the last one-loss team in the regional rankings. Of course, those regional rankings via Sunday's game, so your last game does not enter this equation. But it's not an easy region by any stretch of the imagination. You've certainly been there for several seasons. You've got to be used to it by now, but As much as the landscape looks the same, it always seems to be changing. DePaul would be an example of that this year, even Mount Union.
Oh, my gosh. Our region, I mean, when you start looking at it, so tough and so deep. The schools out of the Michigan Conference, Calvin and Hope, just always are tough year in and year out. I think it was a few years ago that we made the NCAA tournament and drew Calvin on one of their really phenomenal years. You know, as an opening game, and you're like, wow, we ran into a buzzsaw. And, you know, the DePaul's year in and year out, just a tough team. Chris does a great job with that program. And, yeah, I mean, just competing in this conference and being mentioned in the same breath as those schools, you know, it's an honor for Franklin College. We've worked real hard to be in that same talk.
We should point out you beat DePaul in the third game of the season, 52-47, by the way. Their only other regional loss. So I find it funny. You may lose. You know, you do take the loss yesterday in region, but now wins against regional opponents is going to come into play. That win over DePaul is going to be huge for your team.
Oh, right. And the win over DePaul really jump-started our season. It really gave our team a lot of confidence that, you know, that we could play with nationally ranked teams. So, you know, that was an incredible win for us and our program, and so respectful of DePaul, you know, and the program they have. So, you know, it was a big rivalry for us and a real exciting game for us to win.
Last year, 21-7 on the season. You got the team did not make the NCAA tournament. Missed out. Last time you guys were there, 2009-2010. Certainly looks like you're in position to be there this year. How are you preparing the team to keep from, you know, last year from kind of being a deja vu this year?
We're talking about finishing strong, you know, and we really do focus on just one practice, one day, one game at a time, and you start looking at the big picture, it becomes very overwhelming. So if you can break it down into small pieces and just the small picture frame that we look at of just one practice, and we work on that day and the next game, I think it makes the grind of the basketball season a lot easier to focus on. So they've been really motivated and real fired up to be where we are, and so I think that really helps the work ethic and practice to get after it.
Talking to Franklin women's basketball coach Kim Eiler here on Hoopsville. If you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com or IMS Hoopsville2000, or join us on Twitter. Use the hashtag Hoopsville, or follow us on Hoopsville at D3Hoopsville. I could go through a litany of ways you can contact us. I think I've gone through most of the show, so you should know how to do it. Coach, let's quickly, before we get to the fun part of this, as we're a little bit behind, but let's quickly talk about this conference. We kind of glazed over it a little bit. You are tied with Hanover, the two Indiana teams there. Manchester right behind you, Transylvania and Defiance. What's it going to take? I mean, first off, explain to everybody who's in and who's out of a Heartland tournament. Obviously, not every team makes the tournament. First off, how is the Heartland made up, I should say?
We take the top 6 teams to the tournament. So if you're the top 6, the number 1 team that wins regular season conference gets the host. So hosting's huge, obviously, to have that on your home court. So that's always the goal every year is to host that conference tournament. So the winner of the regular season gets that host. And like you said, we're tied with Hanover right now. They've had an absolutely phenomenal season as well within our conference. So, you know, we're having a great year, but so are they.
Well, a question I just got asked is Franklin-Hanover in basketball as big a rivalry as Franklin-Hanover is in football?
Oh, yeah. It is.
You laugh.
It is. I mean, it's in every sport, not just football. I mean, you can ask volleyball, you can ask the soccer teams. It is such a huge rivalry. So, yeah, it's big in football, but men's and women's basketball, any sport that is Franklin-Hanover is going to be big.
So if it's you and Hanover tied at the end of the regular season, I say we forego the normal tie-breaking procedures and we find something to help break this tie to make this rivalry even better. I don't know what it is. Arm wrestling match, maybe a tug of war. You get the soccer teams maybe on the field against each other.
True. Oh,
Something.
Our student bodies even get into it. They do. It's a great rivalry to have.
Who can bring the biggest crowd in about 2 hours without any warning? We make this fun.
Yep. It would be fun. For us right now, we hold the breaker because we were able to beat them both times this year. But, it would be fun to do something different. Maybe we should swim or something. I don't know.
It's a little cold, Coach, but go with it. Go with it.
I would do it.
I can imagine you would. Hey, I want to get our good friend Chris Tarr, our producer extraordinaire, in here because it is time for our favorite part of the show, and that is since you are the School of the Week, Franklin has been designated for our fun 5 questions of the School of the Week. Chris does a lot of work on this, I think.
I do.
He says he does. I will tell you now, I don't know the questions. I can tell you also, though, they will be related to Franklin, your program, or the athletics program. Am I right, Chris? They don't tend to sway off of that too far.
That's pretty much the theme. Yep, you're good.
I will give you a hint. He loves U.S. News and World Report. I realize that hint now may not help you at all. And leader in the clubhouse is 4 out of 5, so there is no pressure at all. No one has gone perfect.
None.
No one's gone perfect. So we're looking for our first, but we will bring Chris Tarr in right now as we speak. And again, I don't know the question, so I'm looking forward to this as much as you are. I'm sure you are.
Oh, yeah.
And so our School of the Week 5 questions, Chris Tarr. Dr. Kim Eiler is all yours.
All right, Coach. Here we go. First question. Franklin College, founded in 1834 as the Indiana Baptist Manual Labor Institute.
Ugh.
I like Franklin College better. Became the state of Indiana's first coeducational school of higher learning.
Where did you go to school?
In 1842. It was the blank school to admit women in the U.S., as in the 13th, 29th, 101st. Which one? What's your
what
guess?
number school were they in the U.S.
Yes,
to admit women?
Correct.
To admit women?
Yep.
I would say 13th.
That's
3 is in there, but 3rd is actually the correct answer.
We were
3rd.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I told you, he likes these weird questions.
Wow,
I apologize,
that is deep.
though, because usually he goes easy first.
That is a real deep question.
Yeah, it is.
Pat Coleman's wife said 3rd. Do we give her a point?
We can have her on next week.
We'll have her on next week. Oh, that could be fun. She's an education person. Very good. Okay.
All right, Coach. Second question. Franklin alum Arch West was a marketing executive known for developing which famous snack food?
You're nuts.
Oh, my gosh. Where do you get this?
You start easy. Man, you start hard tonight.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Coach. I will have him
my
replaced.
PhD is in education.
That's I elevated the question
in education.
for a doctor.
She was PhD in education.
Wow.
What snack food? What's his name again?
Arch West.
Arch West. Good, Coach.
Famous snack food.
I'll take
Snack
a guess if she doesn't get it.
Oh, let's do a snack food. Probably some sort of Hostess cake.
Okay, you got the company.
Um,
Cakes whittle it down to about nothing at Hostess.
Yes. How about a Twinkie? Let's do a Twinkie.
I was going to go there.
Twinkies, I love them. Unfortunately, Doritos is the answer.
Wow.
Arch West, famous for inventing Doritos.
Interesting.
Wow.
Okay. That's all right, Coach. None of us were there either.
This is a rough one.
These are tough. I got
Don't
you.
make me start the Jeopardy music, by the way. No, I was joking because I have a longer story ahead. Go ahead.
Here we go. Number 3. Indiana, we know the Hoosier State, known for great basketball. Who was
question.
Indiana's first high school Miss Basketball?
Not so
who went on to play at Franklin College?
At Franklin College. It's Judy Warren.
Judy Warren is correct.
So you decide to backload the show with
you got to mix it up, Dave.
All right.
I would. Yeah.
1 out of 3.
Yeah. It's
All right, Coach. I think you'll get this next one too. Prior to this season, how many times has Franklin College's women's basketball team won 20 or more games in a season during your tenure as head coach?
during my tenure. Gosh, 1, 2, I have to think, 3. 3.
3 is correct. Yes, it is.
Yes.
I was going to say, if she gets this wrong.
You know, I have to count. At
least you had to count. Otherwise, there's going to be an SID in your office tomorrow morning.
All right, Coach.
2 out of 4.
You're
Got a
finishing
chance
strong.
above 500 here.
All right, here we go. In the 1920s, Franklin College gained national fame when a basketball team, which started at the high school level, won 3 straight state titles and then became national college champions in 1923. The team was dubbed the Franklin Wonder Five. Who coached them?
The Wonder Five. Wow. I knew the team's name of Wonder Five.
I almost made that the question. I thought that was too easy.
I know. I would have known that one.
That was too easy after the questions you've asked already tonight? Wow. I would have given her a Wonder Five.
That's a hard.
Does anybody know this, Chris?
I don't. It ties into the school. So after if she has a guess, I'll give the answer and explain how it all ties together.
Ties into the school. Okay.
Is the
wow.
coach's last name? Never mind.
Coach, you know.
I was wondering if they had like a banner or some kind of have his name somewhere at school.
They have a banner with the record and everything,
right.
And it says
national champion.
She's clearly not on her cell phone.
They didn't put the coach on there.
Oh, I was going to say, clearly she's not on her cell phone. She'd run out there and check it.
No, I'm at home, so I can't look
even
at the
harder.
gym. Sorry. yes. So I'm sorry, I don't know that one.
Coach's name was Ernest Wagner. His nickname was Grizz.
Grizz Wagner,
and
yes.
Grizz Wagner and
Grizzlies.
So right, exactly. So that's why they're called the Grizzlies.
Yes.
And he also coached at the high school, and their Franklin High School is the Grizzly Cubs, and Franklin College the Grizzlies.
Why did you have to get a Cubs question in there? We discussed.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
To Cubs.
Nothing Cubs related. So there we go. The Grizz, and then you guys were the Grizzlies.
Wow, you really did your homework.
That's what I do. That's what they pay me the big bucks for.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Coach, I feel. I don't know what to tell you. We're going to take Chris off video now because I feel bad for you.
Oh, that's all right.
He killed you.
Yeah, those are good.
Those were good. Those were good.
I probably should be doing my homework over that than game film and teaching my classes, huh?
No, I think you got your priorities straight, really. I think
good,
you do.
That's good.
Hey, 3 games left. Anderson, Mount St. Joseph, and Defiance. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on the Grizzlies here as you work your way to the end of the HCAC. And as always, we give the coach the final word on Hoopsville. Any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Oh, we appreciate you highlighting Franklin College and our women's program, and we're thrilled to be where we are at 20-2, and appreciate your time and letting us talk to you tonight.
Well, thank you, Coach, for joining us. I appreciate it and having a little fun with us, too. That was very appreciative.
Oh, not a problem at all.
Very good. Coach Eiler, good luck the rest of the season. Hopefully we'll be talking Franklin basketball in the NCAA tournament.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
All right, take care. Again, Kim Eiler. Wow, Chris. Whew.
Yeah, not bad, huh? I brought it tonight for the doctor.
Yeah, I don't think anybody could have gotten those questions. Well, except for Kate Coleman.
Apparently,
we'll give her
pretty
credit.
good.
Hey, we're way behind schedule, so we're going to try and catch up. We're going to take a break. On the other side of this, we're going to be talking to Wittenberg. We'll keep it in the Great Lakes. Talk Wittenberg basketball with Coach Bill Brown. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. We'll be back right after this.
Daddy, I'm only 3 years old, but when you look at me, I could see your wheels turning. You're dreaming about what am I going to be when I grow up? A Major League First baseman? Maybe a point guard for the national championship team? Or the winner of the Heisman Trophy?
The odds of a child becoming a professional athlete? 1 in 16,000. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 150. You know the odds of autism. Now learn some of the signs. No big smiles or other joyful expressions by 6 months. No back and forth sharing of sounds or facial expressions by 9 months. And no babbling by 12 months. To learn more of the signs and more about autism, visit autismspeaks.org.
So, Dad, let's keep dreaming the impossible while looking out for the possible, okay?
Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
So, EJ, we've designed you a signature shoe worthy of a 3-time All-American with mad smarts and sick leadership skills. Ta-da!
There are over 380,000 NCAA student athletes.
Yeah, you got your GPA in Boston, right?
I love it. And just about all of them will be going pro in something other than sports.
Can I get it in a loafer for casual Fridays? Yes. Yes.
NCAA Women's College Basketball. All day, every day, our game. These women can really play. Filling it up, knocking them down, and bringing it home. It's basketball at its purest. For family fun and great entertainment, there's nothing like it. All day, every day, our game. NCAA Women's College Basketball.
And welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm your host, Dave McHugh, broadcasting thanks to Ustream. Want to quickly mention there is a brand new website on Ustream that has basically taken all of anybody who broadcasts that we know of, at least responded to our questions or we have determined on our own, that broadcast D3 basketball games on Ustream. We now have a page dedicated to that. I believe Pat may... Actually, I have it on email. I was going to say, I was going to try and do that off the top of my head. That would have been probably stupid. The Super Channel, as it's being called, the D3Sports.com Super Channel address is ustream.tv/D3bball, as in basketball, D3bball. So certainly we would like to see you check that out. It is a pretty cool page. I've already checked it out a little bit myself. Worth going to if you get the opportunity. If you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/hoopsville. Join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can also join us on AOL-IM, Hoopsville 2000. I think I got it all covered. If I didn't, I apologize. We'll figure it out another time. Now joining us on Hoopsville, we'll keep it in the Great Lakes region. We'll switch it to the men's side of basketball. And joining us on the show now is Wittenberg's men's basketball coach, Bill Brown. Coach, welcome back to Hoopsville.
Thanks, Dave.
Number 22 in the country. Of course, Wabash just tripped you guys up a little bit, 55-49. But before that, you had a pretty solid season going, I'll have to admit. Even with that loss, you're sitting at 17-5, 11-2 on top of the North Coast Athletic Conference. You've got a game lead on Worcester. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Ohio Wesleyan, Wabash, DePaul, and Denison in a log jam behind you guys. But I would say you've got to be probably pretty pleased with how your Tigers are playing right now.
The North Coast Athletic Conference, as you well know, has just been outstanding this year. I don't know the exact non-conference record, but I'm thinking I heard somewhere along the line it was 30-plus games over 500, and there's numerous teams in the conference that have signature wins for sure, not to pick on anybody, but for instance, Ohio Wesleyan over WashU.
Yeah.
Kenyon, which, has struggled a little bit in our league, has a win over an ODAC school, Roanoke, on their home floor, and the list goes on. So, we're not displeased. Wabash, it's a very difficult place to play. Mm-hmm. Wabash plays with great pride, great intensity. And, they had a guy, Andy Walsh, who's a football player, make 3 very tough and timely three-point shots, and we shot the ball very poorly, including 9 for 20 from the free throw line, or 10 for 21 from the free throw line, and basketball's that way. We're into the part of the season now, whereas you better have to look backward too long, and we're already looking forward.
Well, it's interesting because the regional rankings that came out yesterday: Wittenberg, Worcester, Ohio Wesleyan, Wabash, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 6. You guys are ranked. So 4 of the 6 slots going to the NCAC. You're right. It's been a fascinating season. I think a lot of people thought Worcester was going to be the class of this conference, but Ohio Wesleyan, as you pointed out, played well. Wabash was playing terrifically before stumbling a little bit. DePaul has certainly made their presence known, as you would know. It's certainly been fun to watch this conference. Even Hiram, and other teams have made their presence known. They tripped you guys up earlier this season, 65-51. It was the presence of DePaul coming into the conference kind of part and parcel with making this so exciting, or do you think it was a perfect storm with a lot of teams that had gotten good and everything kind of just worked out this season?
Well, just as you referenced, as you were talking a few minutes ago, I mean, you mentioned a whole lot of teams other than DePaul. I mean, there's no question that, DePaul has added a great deal to it. But, again, you've talked about Ohio Wesleyan. I talked about it being WashU and Rhodes, and the list goes on. And Hiram, beat Lake Erie or Notre Dame fairly convincingly, a scholarship school. And, of course, you have the Worcesters, you have the Waubashes. So DePaul certainly added to it, but the primary thing this year has just been the quality improvement, of team by team in the league.
Let's talk about your team. Clayton Black's leading the way at 14, nearly 15 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, shooting 56% from the floor, handing out 41 assists, blocking 21 shots. Josh McKee, Zach Lee, Michael Cooper, all have 9+ points a game. Also, Alex Brandt with 8 points a game. You see the numbers from Black, but then if you take a careful look, you certainly have a number of players behind him. It certainly seems like a pretty deep unit.
Well, the 9-point figures aren't that magical double-figure
right.
Number, but in reality, they're right there. So we do have good balance. I mean, Clayton clearly is the player who can have a breakout night for us any night. He scored 38 against Kenyon, and we needed every one of those 38. So we try to run most of the things, through him, through the inside. And, we've always made a commitment to play, 8 to 10 people. And, we're probably only going to have one all-league player, which is sort of amazing, but it points to our concept of team and how somehow or other, to this point, we've been able to find that balance of scoring and playing. Maybe if we've had to search a little bit within the ranks from night to night.
You've got 7 seniors on this squad, according to the roster. That's a lot of senior leadership, certainly a lot that you will lose. But what have they brought to the table that has helped you get on top of the conference right now?
Well, we've never had this many seniors, and not many, programs, do. And it's certainly scary when you think about the future, but we're just trying to finish out the things with this group strong this season. And, the biggest thing about experiences is just the number of basketball games that they've been in and the learning that should come about as a result of that. And part of that is playing in rapid environments and being able to stay on an even keel emotionally. And, we're sure, after not shooting the ball well last night and being really disappointed in not being able to maybe grab a W at Wabash, it's just going to be real important today, tomorrow, and Saturday in front of, what's going to be a really large crowd for that senior leadership to really shine. And, again, that's just being able to stay on an even keel emotionally. The game of basketball, good things and bad things are going to come your way, and you just need to not, be up and down throughout the game, depending on how it's gone. So we really hope and expect and know that these 7 seniors are doing some things behind the scenes right now, and will hopefully lead the way here the rest of the season.
You talk about Saturday's game. Obviously, it's Worcester. It's one of the best rivalries in Division III. Calvin Hope is certainly one that everyone talks about. Worcester-Wittenberg is one of those everyone talks about. There is certainly plenty of others. We won't waste the time going into all the great rivalries, but Worcester-Wittenberg's near the top, certainly. Earlier in the season, back on December 7th, you were able to beat the Scots by 1 at their place. Obviously, they're looking to try and catch up with you in the conference. So there's a ton on the line here as they're 1 game back. They'd like to make up for that loss earlier in the season. So beyond the rivalry, there's a ton on the line for Saturday. For starters, what's the rivalry been like? You graduated from Wittenberg. You've been coaching there since '93. What's this rivalry like? And follow up on that, how different, obviously it's always big, but how different is Saturday's game maybe in this rivalry?
Oh, we pretty much approach it each time that it really doesn't. I mean, we played them so early the first time. I don't know how it happened that the conference would have scheduled it that way. So there was no feel for how the conference race maybe was going to shake out. And I remember back, I believe that it doesn't really matter. It's Wittenberg and Worcester, and from a competitive standpoint, they just have really went at it. You never know whether this game's going to be an exception. It's quite remarkable. I don't have any figure, but over the last 10 years, if you add up all the points of all the games, you'd be shocked at how few points difference it is over maybe even 30 games. So first and foremost, it's just Wittenberg versus Worcester. But yes, because we are down to the final 3 games in the conference, and with where everything's positioned, it's just a huge game.
I love how you just say it's just Wittenberg-Worcester, and I realize from the adage out there, Wittenberg-Worcester is a rivalry game everyone knows and everyone's geared up with. Hope Calvin, they're 30 miles apart. They know it's a rivalry game. They're all geared up for it. But for those who may not be familiar with it, this is like a Duke, North Carolina. This is like a real tough rivalry game between two storied programs. Wittenberg, one of the winningest programs in Division III history, and Worcester is not that far behind. This is really the true essence of a true college where, I don't care if we're having the worst season in our lives, we got to beat them type of game.
Well, it's always a very fiercely played game. And, we bump into Worcester not just 2 or 3 times a year on the basketball court. We bump up against Worcester every night on the phone as we're, touching base with recruits and so forth. So the competition between coaching staffs goes a lot deeper than the competition even just within the group of players that are in both teams' program every 4-year cycle. So it's just competitive through and through and through, and just a very fierce competitive game.
Well, certainly a big game on Saturday. Let me get your quick take on the rest of the region. Usually we're talking, Worcester, we're talking Wittenberg. Hope and Calvin are usually in the conversation. But this year, as we already talked about the NCAC, there's a ton of schools in there that have been making their presence known. The OAC has certainly had a successful season with a lot of schools getting some recognition. Calvin may be down, but there's still an equation, but Hope seems to be running away with it. The HCAC has Transylvania this year. Hanover is playing very good basketball. Certainly seems like maybe the top tier of the Great Lakes this year is certainly deeper than it has been in years past.
It's really hard at times to compare different regions because there's no television exposure.
Right.
You're going to have people really believing that their area has been, one of the best areas for Division III basketball in the Midwest. Even the region's a step beyond the Great Lakes region. It's just quality basketball. Nobody, particularly high school players, potential recruits, just do not realize how good of talent there is throughout Division III basketball. And the Great Lakes doesn't have to take a back seat to anybody when you talk about, the MIAA, the Hope Calvin Albions, the Ohio Conference, John Carroll, Capital, Otterbein, Marietta, and then our league. I mean, my goodness, there's not many nights off in those leagues for anybody.
No, you're right. It's been fun to watch the Great Lakes this year for sure. Hey, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Hoopsville. I know you got a lot ahead of you. Obviously, a lot of scouting on that Worcester game. You certainly have DePaul before you finish up the season against Hiram, and I know you'd like to get that game back from Hiram. So I wish you nothing but the best. Good luck the rest of the way. But as always, we give the coach the final word on Hoopsville. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who are listening tonight?
Just if there's, quality Division III basketball in your neighborhood, you wouldn't be disappointed with the effort and tenacity and even the skill that those young men will show, and we appreciate the opportunity to be on your show tonight, Dave.
Well, thank you for coming on. I certainly appreciate it. Good luck on Saturday. I'll try and catch a little bit of a peek at it from out here on the East Coast while running around to some other games as well, but good luck against the Scots, and hopefully we're talking Wittenberg basketball in the NCAA tournament.
Take care.
All right, take care, Coach. Bill Brown joining us here on Hoopsville. Going to take a very quick break. On the other side, we're going to jump all the way to the West Coast and California. Talk to Claremont-Mudd-Scripps men's basketball program. Find out how they're dominating the SCIAC and how they may be lining themselves up for the NCAA tournament. And talk to a team that maybe not a lot of people know about, but are certainly pretty high-ranked. You're listening to Hoopsville. Presented by D3Hoops.com on Ustream. We'll be back right after this.
Are you an embarrassment on the dance floor? Do you confuse state capitals and read too many celebrity gossip magazines? Well, if you answered yes, you may have what it takes to adopt a teen from foster care, because teens don't need perfection, they need you. So if you think an MP3 is a computer virus, it's okay. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you. For more information, call 1-888-200-4005 or go to adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
All season long, let D3Football.com be your home for all the Division III football action on the road to the Stag Bowl. From interactive blogs and message boards to columns from around the region and around the nation on your favorite teams, nobody covers NCAA Division III better than D3Football.com. As the playoffs approach, get the scoop on who's in and who's out from the experts who picked all 32 teams last year. Don't go anywhere else. Get the info from the source for Division III football at www.D3Football.com.
Who are you?
What are your team colors?
Who can make you cheer?
Who can bring your family and friends together?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
And who do you want to slap high fives, jump up and down, and yell at the top of your lungs with?
There's probably a game near you today. NCAA basketball. Who's your team?
So, EJ, we've designed you a signature shoe worthy of a 3-time All-American with mad smarts and sick leadership skills. Ta-da!
There are over 380,000 NCAA student athletes.
Hey, you got your GPA and boss, right?
I love it. And just about all of them will be going pro in something other than sports.
Can I get it in a loafer for casual Fridays? Yes. Yes.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. Chris Taher, our producer extraordinaire, working hard in the background. Chris, really quickly, I don't have your camera up, so I apologize. Turn around over my shoulder. You're wearing a Chicago University
Maroons.
Chicago Maroons shirt. Love it.
There we go. Looks good.
Love it. Looking good. I hope
Thank
Coach
you.
McGrath and Coach Russo are happy. I'm wearing a Stevenson shirt. I'm shameless. I'm sorry. It's the only thing I could find. I was digging through. I think I have used up every shirt we own, including the ones we've gotten this year. So I'm going to have to dig through and find some more maybe. Otherwise, we're pulling out some of the D3 stuff. So,
is that a weekly plea to the coaches?
No, it's not a weekly plea. I'm just saying.
It's okay.
My whole plan of wearing a shirt on every show has run into a major roadblock. I thought I had more. I should have planned this out. I should have taken the shirts, looked at how many shows I had, and planned it out better, is what I'm basically alluding to. So anyway, if you got questions for us, email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. Join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Facebook is facebook.com/Hoopsville. I think I've got it all covered. I think I have it all covered. If not, I'm sure you'll find another way. Oh, well, there's always the chat room alongside if you're listening to us on Ustream. There is the chat room, and we hope you are enjoying the show there. We're going to jump into the West region and bring in a guest from the SCIAC. It is a good thing to bring in Claremont-Mudd-Scripps, the number 11 team in the country, and their head coach, Ken Scalmanini. I screwed it up, Chris, after you told me. I feel horrible.
That's all right. You did pretty good with it. Don't worry about it.
Scalmanini, right?
Scalmanini. That's
Scalmanini.
it.
I'm sorry, Coach. I got it in my head right, and that's how I work. I always get it backwards.
My whole life they've been messing that name up. You should have heard them in little league calling it out.
It was a nightmare, so don't worry.
Coach, I apologize for then bringing back bad juju from Little League. Hey, pretty good start to the season. We're way past start to the season. 20-1, 9-1 in conference. Wins over teams like Trinity, Texas this season. Trinity's wins over Chapman. And obviously you've steamrolled your way through the SCIAC. The only blemish in the entire record is Whittier, which is certainly always a tough place to play. You just got past Caltech. You got the next 3 on the road at Redlands, Cal Lutheran, and Occidental before finishing at home against Pomona-Pitzer.
You're making me sound good talking about the steamroll, and I don't know if we're steamrolling it.
It looks
won some
good.
Battles. I don't know if you look at a couple of overtime win, and our conference is pretty close. Winning on the road is awful difficult, and we're pretty early on in the conference play, but we had a great preseason. I think that's what you're kind of alluding to, and we beat some teams in the GSAC, which is, NAI Division I in Southern California, and it's pretty good. The Masters College, San Diego Christian. We won 3 games in a week against them, and that was a nice preseason that actually doesn't count for NCAA Division III. Those are 3 of the good wins. We got a tough road, though, ahead. We got 3 on the road and Pomona at home, and anything can happen, but at this point, why you're having me on is we've had a great start. I got a great group of guys. They work really, really hard. I mean, you'd love them. They just 2 hours each day. They get after it. They listen to me. I can get them to really defend on a consistent basis at most times. And a lot of coaches, have a hard time doing that. And it's kind of a neat thing. I got a great group of guys that they like playing ball and getting after it. So pretty fortunate.
Well, let's talk about those guys because obviously, a guy like myself out here in Baltimore, I certainly know the SCIAC pretty well through my brother having gone to Redlands. He gave me his lowdown while he was there for a number of years. But still, you get disconnected. Video has certainly become a very big asset. I've watched a couple of your games that I've been able to on video, but not for everybody. So let's talk about your team. Explain maybe and give people some insight on why maybe pollsters have you number 11. Chris Blease is your leading scorer, 15.5 plus points a game, 7.3 rebounds. You also have Manny Massera.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Massera, 11.3 points, 4.3 rebounds a game. You're getting also from Tyler Gaffney and several other players. You play pretty deep on this roster. A lot of guys have played all games this season. I think you go at least 8 deep. You go 9 if you count Patrick Donnelly at 19 games and several other guys along the way. Those are the stats. Those are the simple things I can look at right here on my computer screen. Give everybody an idea of, you talk about how they work hard. Tell us a little bit about the guys specifically on this team.
Well, you're gonna face 9 guys, so you're not gonna get tired guys. If they're tired and they're not, kind of taking care of business, another guy's gonna come in that's pretty close to him. We have a couple high-level players. Chris gets doubled sometimes. When he gets doubled, I mean, it's a GM's dream in the NBA. He makes other guys better. You throw, and they get closed out now. Now they have a guy chasing them. They're twice the player. So Chris really helps us. He's come back from a ACL injury. He worked really hard. He tore it last year in the second game of the year. We had a huge upset here on the West Coast. We beat an Azusa Pacific team that was number 1 in the country in NAI Division I. Blease had 25 in that game, and the next game he tore his ACL. In 11 months, he came back and is ready to play. Is this Chris 100%? Man, it's hard to tell. I mean, he's close to it. He creates kind of good situations for us. But with that being said, we have a lot of good guys. Some guys on the bench would start for a couple other teams. I mean, they come in, and Cody's a tremendous player, and I'm able to, at times put in a kid that's a good shooter or a great defender. And the guys are accepting of that. I mean, a lot of teams are not going to enjoy the successes of the other kids on the team. And I think at Claremont, which it's a joy to coach these kids because they like it when the other kid does well. And in basketball, if it's my turn, you're going to lose. You got to have, we time. You got to make sure that if I'm doubled, I throw. If that kid hit 2 shots in a row, get him the ball. And if teams don't play like that, then it's a hard 40 minutes. And that's one thing I think that we do at an exceptional level is we're going to guard you and make you score. I mean, you're not going to just show up and beat us. We're going to play you. And on offense, if we run our motion, we create some good situations. We try to make mismatch happens. Sometimes I don't know what the guys are running. That might sound crazy, but they react to a situation, and I teach them in practice how to do that, a switch, a fade, a fight over. And whatever the data is from the defender, we react to it. So if you're not playing team ball, you got to have a passer, a screener, and a kid coming off that screen. You can't do it. So I'm really fortunate. I got to be honest. I've been at the Division II level when I first started, and we get great athletes, but my guys want to play, and it's kind of fun coaching that. So I hope I gave you a good overview, but that's
it brings
why
up
we've been successful. Yeah.
Well, it brings up a question I got on Twitter account during the interview was how do you get these guys to buy into your lessons and get into how you are, learn from those lessons or even achieve. Claremont-Mudd-Scripps, year in and year out, is usually the conversation in the SCIAC. You clearly have a lot of success there. How do you get the guys to always buy in?
And when I first started, I asked a coach, I don't want to even say his name, but, man, how do you get the guys to do that? And he, yelled right in my face. I practice it, Calmanini. I practice it. And I guess, in 2 hours, if I don't make them try hard, if I don't make them run back on defense, if I don't make them care on jumping to the pass and boxing out each time, they ain't going to do it. So I think the discipline, our guys can really be disciplined. And for 2 hours, they can get after it, and they practice what I think you'd want your son to do. Work, get after it. Ball shot, go get it. You miss a shot, try to get it back for your team and get back on D. And, that's what we've done over the years, to be honest, is consistently have kids that are trying to create a good situation for the team, not just themselves. But
talking to Coach Ken Scalmanini here from Claremont-Mudd-Scripps, number 11 team in the country, possibly moving up. We'll see how it goes next through the weekend. Obviously, you have games ahead of you. Let's talk about the SCIAC just a little bit more. We've talked about how it's certainly been an interesting season so far. You've got 4 games left: Redlands, Cal Lutheran, Occidental, and Pomona-Pitzer, as we pointed out. Whittier, Pomona-Pitzer sitting 2 games behind you in conference action, with Redlands behind them and Occidental. You look at the overall records, and it's not stellar, I'll freely admit. Whittier and Pomona-Pitzer certainly have the best records, and then there's a drop-off with Redlands at 11-10. But you're 20-1. Obviously, we mentioned the games against the NAIA teams that have certainly helped put you at number 11. Is the SCIAC, though, tougher this year than in years past? Is it not as tough? Is it deeper? Is it shallower? How's your take on the SCIAC this season?
Good question. I think we're up from last year. I mean, no question. I think overall most teams kind of went up, and, you just have those years where you lose a lot of seniors and a lot of good guys, but most teams got better and deeper. So I think our conference is a little better. It's tough out there to understand how good this GSAC is, but for me to go 3-0, if you look over the years, I'm happy to go 1-2. And I've had a couple of years going 0-3. We all play this conference, and they give 9 scholarships. They're NAI Division I. They get some transfer kids that are tremendous players right away. It's a tough game. Their gyms are pretty nice. So our records are typically lower than because we don't have other Division IIIs we can play out here.
Yeah.
And the travel, for us, we went to Texas, and if you look over the years, we usually kind of go on the road each year and play 2 games, but it's only 2 games, and you got to fill the 11. We used to only have Chapman as a non-conference team, so we're stuck playing. I don't want to say a step up, but the NAIA Division I is a step up from Division III. So that typically, Pomona played Biola real well. If you saw Biola, they would challenge for the Final Four in Division III. They're a really good team, really big and strong. So I think our records out here always are down a little bit. I'm not saying we're better like than the Wisconsin Conference. I mean, I understand it. They're the top conference, really, I think, overall. So the Northwest is a very good conference. I mean, top to bottom, we can compete with them. But I'm understanding of why the records are down a little bit because of that, what I'm trying to explain.
Sure.
It's tough to beat those teams that give the scholarships, and their guys are there to play basketball only.
Well, I got a question via email talking about the regional rankings and what your thoughts on it. Let's just recap for anybody who's not sure. Wisconsin River Falls 1, Stevens Point 2, Wisconsin Whitewater 3, Whitworth 4, you're sitting 5, St. Thomas 6, Gustavus Adolphus 7, Dubuque 8, and Whitman 9. This person's kind of alluding to something else that I'll tackle later. I don't want to bring you in on, but basically, were you surprised on where you're sitting, considering you're, as of Sunday, you're 19-1 record. You're really 13-1 in region. Are you surprised at where you're sitting? Do you think the SCIAC has any, is influencing that, or you've been around for quite a few years at Claremont-Mudd-Scripps. You certainly know how this system evolves.
Right. The rankings are one thing. I love them for the kids because it's recognition, but I don't get wrapped up in them too much. I mean, the Wisconsin League, I've seen the third-place team come out here and beat a very good top SCIAC team. That conference is very good. I mean, I would consider that the top conference. So, the 1, 2, and 3 teams are probably very, very good. Whitworth beat a couple teams from our conference. I think they beat them on neutral sites. So, us having such a great record, I mean, we're going to be in the talk. So I'm excited to be 5. You ask a couple of my assistants, and they'd say, "Wow, can we be 5? We're 19-1." But you also got to go by a strength of schedule. And some of the teams in the Wisconsin League, all the teams have won so many games. Each one of their wins on the home or road gives them a great deal of points, and that's why they're ahead of us at this point. But I'd like to play anybody. I really feel like we can compete with teams this year, no question. The top teams. So I hope we get the opportunity, but it really ain't about the rankings. It's about us and, how we do against the rest of the teams we play.
Do you feel
keep doing well, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if we keep doing well, then it'll all pan out.
Do you feel that you have very little leeway, though, sitting 5, that you kind of need to win this SCIAC and not take another blemish, or certainly not take a blemish in the tournament, SCIAC tournament, to get in?
No question. It's awful tough. Think about it. We've won every game but one, and if we lose one more, and it could be, one of the ones that are important, we don't get the automatic bid. So we're trying to chase to get in. So that's awful tough. You're talking then about 26, 27 games and only losing 2 of them. And it's in basketball. It's even going on the road and stuff. You got to be up every game. It's hard to win each game. So it makes it hard. But that my guys are ready for that challenge. We kind of know the road ahead. The only automatic bid is for us to win in the SCIAC tournament. Period. It used to be the winner went, and I kind of like that old traditional way. Now it's not like that. I tell the guys each year, you got to win that tournament to get in, because there's not a lot of large teams that actually get chosen out of our league over the years. I think Foxy did one year with us.
Yeah, you guys love running into each other.
You know the history, and it just hasn't been a lot. So you don't want to count on that. You want to have power. You don't want something that you're powerless to. Those rankings we're powerless to, and playing the games we're not. We have power over that. We can determine things. So anyway.
Let me ask you a question as we enter overtime here we're into overtime here on Hoopsville, so I hope you don't mind. But let me ask you a question about Chapman. It's actually a double question. Sure. One, obviously they were an independent for a long time. I know they wanted to be in the SCIAC for a long time, and now they've been admitted into the SCIAC. So my first question about Chapman is, does this help strengthen the SCIAC? Is this a good thing that Chapman has been in? And if it is, why did it take so long?
I think it's a great thing that they're in. The choice to have them in goes way above me. It's the president's. It's a bunch of choices about institutions and scheduling, but on a basketball sense, having them in, you know, they're going to be a top-notch program. Volkowski does a great job coaching over there. They usually have really competitive teams with our league. They're going to be a high echelon team in our league, so that'll help things. You know, it'll make my life a lot harder because I got another good one to come in. But to be honest, for everyone, it strengthens us. And it's 2 less games you got to look up on the schedule, and they're close to us. They're only 30 minutes away.
Right.
So there's, you know, I don't know the reason why they didn't get in, but it's nice to have them.
And the only oddity I found was they weren't immediately qualified for SCIAC action. I don't even know how long they have to sit on the sideline per se, in the sense of being eligible for the SCIAC tournament. What was the reasoning behind that? Is it just a 1-year thing? Is this a multi-year thing? What's going on with that?
I think they're ready to go next year.
Okay.
So they're on the schedule. They're and they get to qualify to win the championships this year.
Was it just a matter of maybe not getting them scheduled into the schedule because it happened?
Correct.
Okay.
You got it.
Okay.
All
So
the schedule was completed, and
Gotcha.
we couldn't just throw them in. So it's kind of a year of feeling it out, but they've been in our meetings, and they're already on our schedule for the following year, and they can win the championship just like anybody else starting next year.
Talking to Ken, sorry, I was doing 3 other things as I get emails and stuff, and so I try and filter through my stuff, and I'm talking multiple things at the same time. I apologize for the pregnant pause there. Coach Scalmanini joining us here from Claremont-Mudd-Scripps. Loved having you on the show. I'm sorry it's taken us so long to get you guys here, but I'm glad we could make this work tonight. Obviously, we've had an eye on your team for a long time. If you were to try and sell people CMS basketball, how would you sell it to those anywhere else in the country who may not be able to have the chance to see it?
You know, we're gonna play it the old traditional way. We're gonna play it hard with a lot of discipline. We're gonna play 10 guys. If you're resilient, you're gonna be able to play for me. And it's a tremendous school. I mean, about 90% of my guys have had a job prior to graduation. So that's how I can help bring guys over to Claremont. Is we play a high-level basketball. We're competitive every year in the SCIAC, and you have a great chance to get a job before you even graduate from school. So I'm in a neat place. I think I'm pretty lucky. So.
Well, certainly done some impressive things there with your team, and nothing. The Stags have certainly played some very good basketball along the way. We're certainly looking forward to seeing how you guys do as we get further down into the NCAA tournament and stuff. Very curious, or I shouldn't say very curious, but one thing we do on Hoopsville is we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those out there listening?
I'd like to just thank you guys for having us on. We really appreciate it. You know, I got a great group of guys, and if you get a chance to see us play on the internet, I hope you come away saying, boy, I like the way those guys play. You know, it's one of the things I really like when I get some recruits and their parents, and they say, wow, you play team basketball. I could tell. And that's kind of what we're all about. So that's my final word.
Very good. Coach Scalmanini joining us from Claremont-Mudd-Scripps. Coach, thanks so much for finding the time to join us. I certainly appreciate it. I know people out there appreciate hearing from the West Coast. I know that's not the easiest thing for us to figure out, but thanks so much. And
thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Good luck the rest of the way. We're certainly got an eye on you, and we'd love to see you make headway through the NCAA tournament as well.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you, Coach.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Coach Scalmanini joining us from Claremont-Mudd-Scripps. Chris, good work, buddy. Good work getting them on. I appreciate that. A lot of chat in the chat room right now, so we'll keep this going a little bit here so you guys can chat it up. But I also want to respond to an email. A lot of questions about, what counts as a regional game, et cetera, et cetera. Let me read you an email I got. It was questions for Coach, but some of them I asked, some of them I didn't. One of them was, what are the conclusions ranking? This person basically came to the end of this saying, my conclusion is that the rankings should just be ignored. There's too much discrepancy between NCAA Division III hoops rankings. You cannot ignore the regional rankings. Plain and simple. The D3 hoops rankings are a poll. They are a top 25 poll taken by 25 people across the country, equally represented in each region, with Pat Coleman being your 25th voter. It is a poll based on what we decide as pollsters, myself being included, is the top 25 teams in the country. It's the top 25 teams in the country. We have 62 teams to make the NCAA tournament. We're not ranking 62 teams. So for starters, you can't use our rankings as finding out who gets into the tournament. That's the first thing. Second thing, we are looking at a much broader brushstroke. Claremont-Mudd-Scripps is 20-1 right now. They are 14-1 in the eyes of the NCAA because that is their regional record. They have played teams that are not Division III teams. Some voters have taken those games into account maybe more than other voters. It doesn't matter on the D3 Hoops Top 25, but that's why Claremont-Mudd-Scripps is number 11. You cannot ignore the NCAA rankings because those regional rankings will determine if you do or don't make the NCAA tournament if you do not qualify on the automatic qualifier, and where you will play or where you won't play. For example, at home. Now, Claremont-Mudd-Scripps is in a unique situation where travel is tough. And a lot of times, we mentioned Occidental before, they have had to eat, it's kind of like animals eating their own young. That's what's happened to the Skyac on a couple occasions, or the Chapman now that's in the Skyac. Because they're stuck in playing a regional game before they can travel out to play anybody else. But for the most part, you can't ignore this because who else you're going to play, if you play it at home, if you play it on the road, comes into play here. And those regional rankings will determine that in the long run. Not week ones, not week twos. Week 3 will give you an idea, but that final regional ranking, it works up to that. So you cannot ignore the NCAA regional rankings at all, because they are essentially how we determine who makes the NCAA tournament. This is a Division III mentality. It is a Division III philosophy, as one word is. You may not agree with how regional games are determined. I wish you were around 10 years ago. I wish you were around 15 years ago. It was far worse. We have worked towards a more national tournament within the boundaries of a much more expanded region. It's not perfect. It will never be perfect. Unless, you could go national and be a complete national scope. I don't see Division III schools deciding to make this national. And remember, you make it national in basketball, you make it national in all sports. This is not a basketball-only scenario. A regional game is counted by your specific region, 200-mile radius, which may take you outside of a region, and that's 200 miles by actually driving, not actual radius of a circle. And then administrative regions that the NCAA has 4 of them. That's regional games. We're not new to this. This is how it's been for a few years. It is far better than 5 years ago. It's far better than 10 years ago. It's far better than 15 years ago. I understand there are schools, say like a Claremont-Mudd-Scripps, who are out in the West Coast who do not have a lot of teams to play. What about a Nebraska Wesleyan? There's nobody around them until you get into Iowa. I understand Hope, on the men's side, argues they can't get opponents to play them, though on the women's side they do. I feel bad for Finlandia, which is the only Michigan team located in the West region, because it makes it better for them to play regional games. But this is the cards we have been dealt. There's constant tweaking of it to make it better, but it's not perfect. And what works for one team may not work for another. One solution for one team may not work for another. What I cannot emphasize enough is this is a regional system. We are lucky it is a nationally focused tournament, that the committees make an effort to try and diversify the teams, move them around. There used to be a time where for example, the Mid-Atlantic region would get 8 teams in the NCAA tournament, no matter how bad those 8 teams were. If you have 6 in your region, like the Great Lakes on your regional rankings, you got 6 teams in that region. The East, 8. Actually, I think it was 8 for everybody now that I think about it. Is that fair? You talk about all the complaints now. There were teams in the NCAA tournament who had no right to be there. None. But it was so hyper-focused on regional games that it did not matter if you were a 500 team who had lost in the first round of the conference tournament, you got in because they had to fill out the teams. They had to fill out the teams. We now have a much more national scope. That's a very good thing. But it's based on regional games, which has been decreed by the members of Division III. This is not Division I. This is not Division II. This is Division III. It's different, and for a good reason. I like how we have evolved in the last 15, 17 years that I have known the system. Granted, I didn't know it very well at the very beginning. Educate yourself if you're new to this. Re-educate yourself if you think you're familiar with this. There are no easy solutions. I can give you a couple of thoughts I would like to see happen without going to an all games count scenario. I don't like all games count. They need to figure out some of the regions. The Northeast has too many. The East has too few. The Atlantic has too few. The Mid-Atlantic's confusing. The Great Lakes, slightly confusing, but pretty solid. The South, maybe too big in the sense of geography. The West/Midwest with men and women, inconsistent. I'd like to see them go and look at the regions for basketball and maybe redraw the maps. Move schools, move conferences into different regions. I don't understand why the Mid-Atlantic has the Capital Athletic Conference, but the Atlantic on the men's side, but on the Atlantic, the women do. I don't understand. There's other conferences. I'm sorry. The WIAC is in the Central on the women, in the Midwest, which is the Midwest, but on the West on the men. It has to do with ratios. I get that. But we're adding a lot more schools. So let's start by redrawing the regions. There's been talk that they've been looking at this. It's been taking too long. Redraw the regions. Somehow break up the Northeast. It's not going to be easy, but there may be something to do it. Maybe pulling some teams into the East. Let's look at the Mid-Atlantic, maybe move somebody into the Atlantic, like the Capital Athletic Conference. So I don't know if that's essentially fair, but it's already there for the women, and it's working. Let's look at maybe something with the HCAC, or let's look at how the South region is designed. Let's look at the WIAC. Let's take a strong look at the WIAC and see how it's set up in those regions. Let's redraw the regions a little bit. It may not solve everything, but it might help some factors that we are dealing with. Will it help a Hope who on the men's side say they can't schedule? No, probably not. Will it help a team in the East region get a couple extra games? Yeah, maybe. Will it help the West teams? I don't know. That's a tough one. Will it help the WIAC? Yeah, it probably could. Let's redraw the regions. The geographic regions are not changing. Those are pretty much set. Maybe we can tweak them a little bit. We might be able to. But that's an NCAA geographic thing. I don't know if that's all just Division III, so I don't know if you can play with that. Those are my solutions on trying to solve this. Expanding the 200-mile, you're getting into some tricky area. You go 250, you go 300. One idea is to go 500, which is the NCAA does. I think that's too far. The NCAA does that for travel reasons, and travel reasons only. It's an expense reason. They don't want to travel teams by air if it's under 500 miles. So I don't like the idea of going to the 500-mile radius. But let's maybe expand it maybe to 250. That might help out some teams. But we don't want to go too far, or this is just going to get ridiculous. By the way, my biggest key on regional rankings, you might be complaining about where you're sitting in your regional ranking. Your conference is not helping you. I have heard coaches on this show say that they have gotten on other coaches in their conference to improve not only themselves, but their schedules. Maybe more coaches need to do that. More coaches also need to know what a regional game is. Too many of them do not know what a regional game is, and in this day and age, there is no excuse. Also look at who you're scheduling out of conference. If you have easy opponents, you're going to get hit on the regional rankings. Your strength of schedule's going to be lousy. When you look at regional rankings, understand there's more at play than who you beat. There's more at play than who else beat who else. How your conference does is a big key because it's your strength of schedule. A team like MIT, like to see them make maybe a stronger out-of-conference schedule. That could help them. But I'd also like a team like MIT to turn to their brethren in the NUMAC and say, hey, we need to get better because we are only hurting ourselves. If we want multiple teams in this NCAA tournament, we all need to get better. Better at winning, better at recruiting, better at scheduling. And remember, the regional rankings are going to evolve. Guess what comes into play next week? Teams you have played that are regionally ranked no matter the region. So Gustavus Adolphus gets a win against Transylvania. And by the way, it's once ranked, always ranked. So that first week's rankings will come into play 4 weeks from now, even if a team slid out of the rankings. That's going to shake things up. What you see this week will not, I promise you, except for maybe a couple of regions, what you saw this week on Wednesday will not even come close to what it will look like next Wednesday. It won't. We've already had losses, and we've already had teams that have taken some hits. But you're also going to have games that now count that couldn't count in week one. Just a thought. We're way into overtime. Chris has to go to bed. I appreciate you listening to Hoopsville. You can follow us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville. Please, we were trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the month. Also join us on hashtag Hoopsville, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. Email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's another way of getting a hold of us. You also use the hashtag Hoopsville. We're going to sign off for tonight. There's a lot going on. Yes, I'm done ranting, NJF. I hope that's okay. I try to give you guys as much time to chat in there as physically possible. Oh, Pat, I'm sorry. I'm somehow deleting your URLs. I'll fix that for the future. But I'm done ranting, so you guys, I'll try and keep the chat room going. I think the chat room might go even if we were off the air, so I hope you enjoy it. I'll have to go back in there and read a little bit of what you guys had to say. And by the way, it wasn't a rant. I think it was a discussion. Anyway, thanks for joining us on Hoopsville, everybody. We'll see you back here on Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, then back here on Thursday, 8 to 10. Don't forget, we do have a special Selection Sunday show coming up, though we don't usually know the selections anymore. Then we'll go a couple hours there with breaking down who we think's in and who we think is out. And we have a special matchup Monday coming on the 27th of February where we will talk to the regional or we talk to the national committee chairs and talk to some teams maybe who are a surprise in or a surprise out. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Thanks to Ustream. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on Sunday night.